Now we will discuss access control. You probably have noticed that in the definition for the 2D and 3D classes, the member variables and member functions have access specifiers before them, public, private, or protected. These access specifiers control how these member variables and member functions can be accessed inside and outside the classes where they are declared and defined. As mentioned previously, the access specifiers can also appear before the base class in the case of inheritance. Here again is the syntax of inheritance. We say the class, keyword, followed by the name of the derived class, and we inherit from the base class using some access specifier. Then we have the body of the class. Now the access specifier used in inheritance controls the way variables and functions in the base class are accessed by the derived class. In the following section, we will discuss these two cases separately: access specifiers within a class and access specifiers in inheritance. Access specifiers within a class should already feel familiar for you. When a class member, variable, and function is declared as public, it can be accessed by any other part of a program, including its derived class. When a member is declared private, it can be accessed only by members of its class. It cannot be accessed by its derived class. When a member is declared as protected, it can be accessed only by members of its class. However, derived classes also have access to protected members of the base class. And as you recall, when a member is declared without an access specifier, it is private by default. So now we will talk about access specifiers in inheritance. Again, you want to keep this syntax in mind, that the derived class inherits from the base class using some access specifier. Access specifiers in inheritance can be thought of as a filter. So using a public access specifier is like using a large filter here. And we can think of inheritance as looking at what is passed through this filter from the base class to the derived class. So if the derived class uses public inheritance from the base class, do you think something that's private in the base class will pass through and be inherited? The answer is no. Anything that's private in the base class will stay there. It will not be accessible from the derived class. Anything that's public in the base class will be inherited directly, and it will remain public in the derived class. Similarly, anything that's protected in the base class will pass through and be inherited as protected. Now, if we have protected as our access specifier, this is like using a more narrow filter. So again, anything that's private in the base class will not be accessible from the derived class. And here's where things get a bit more interesting. So if we use a protected access specifier to inherit from the base class, anything that's public in the base class will become protected, and then anything that was protected in the base class will remain protected in the derived class. Now, if we use private as the access specifier, this is like using the most narrow filter. So again, anything that's private in the base class will not be inherited, so that will not be accessible. And now, anything that is public or protected in the base class will be inherited and become private in the derived class. By using access specifiers, a programmer can control exactly how each member should be accessed inside and outside of the class where they are defined.